Welcome, everyone, to episode 51 of the Our Two Cents podcast. Today's episode will be a spoiler review, as usual, of Fighting With My Family, the film straight out of the WWE concoction of entertainment, whatever we're going to call it nowadays. This week, we're going to talk about this one, and we'll also have the episode up for the season finale of True Detective, where we're going to obviously spoil the shit out of that one. Chris, how you doing, man?
Chilling. Life could be better, but
Chilling. Yeah, I mean, as always, right? As always, this was a movie, Fighting With My Family, that I think was made for us. So before we head into it, let me just quick roundup. A former wrestler and his family make a living performing at small venues around the country while his kids dream of joining the WWE. That's kind of a weird summary, but okay. Director Stephen Merchant, written by Stephen Merchant as well, produced by The Rock. It stars quite a few known people, actually.
well, The Rock's pretty.
Yeah, he's kind of known.
He's coming up.
Nick Frost, who was made famous in the trilogy with Simon Pegg. I'm a huge fan of him. Lena Headey, I think is her name.
Sassy.
Yes, famous for Cersei, obviously in Game of Thrones. And there's a couple. Vince Vaughn is also in this. So there's a couple people here and there.
For a WWE movie, they got a pretty decent cast.
It's quite a decent cast, and of course they sort of drop in a couple wrestlers here and there. So for people who don't know, me and Chris used to waste and still waste countless hours, not as much anymore, thankfully, watching this nonsense that is wrestling. So this film we were looking forward to it.
Personal.
Yeah, it's quite personal. It's something we grew up with. We were interested to see how the story was going to unfold and how they told this story. And I think the big thing for me was this actually got quite decent reviews. Happy. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't expect it to be that. I mean, it's at a 90-something on Rotten Tomatoes. It's at a 70 on Metacritic, 71. So it is quite high up there. So I was very excited to see how it played out. And I think for me also, I haven't watched the last decade or so technically, so I didn't know what Paige's story was. So the wrestler that's, they put the spotlight on here.
Why are you front right now? The last 5 years. Don't say the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, she got into wrestling when?
WWE?
Yeah.
2013.
Okay, yeah, so, all right, let's say 7 years. Yeah.
6. 5.5.
Dude, I have no idea when she started. Like, I had to go back on YouTube and watch her thing because I don't remember her shit.
Just go on, bro.
Anyway, yeah. So, looking forward to that aspect of it, and obviously just watching a film that's about something from your childhood that isn't half-assed. It's always a good thing. How did you feel heading into this before you saw it?
Well, excuse me. It wasn't solely WWE produced, right? Like, I think another production company.
Well, yeah, Film 4.
Yeah,
I think is a big one.
Because WWE is known for making garbage films. So, but The Rock produced it, and like he has his own little film company. So, I was kind of excited because to be honest, as a WWE film, I don't know how well it could go.
Yeah.
I don't know, unlike you, I'm guessing I was familiar about Paige's story before WWE. I know that her family was very famous in the independent wrestling world. So I know that when she came up, it was a big deal. Right. So it was interesting. I didn't know the details of what her family went through. I just knew about them. But I guess, they're big enough to make a story on.
Right.
Yeah, that's my take on the background of it.
Yeah.
Get to the.
Yeah. So let's sort of jump into it. What were some of the strengths that you feel the film had?
All right. Well, it's general thoughts. Right. Let me just say.
Well, yeah. You can go ahead.
I enjoyed it. I really did. I'm happy it turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
As a wrestling fan, I think it did it justice.
Yeah.
I think it gives you a lot of insight. At the real life struggles. Because a lot of people have this skewed perception of WWE wrestlers that because they're just entertainers, and then our parents, it's fake,
right?
But I think this one kind of gives you a small gist at a unique family, especially because they were all on board with it. So, but yeah, kind of getting off topic. I enjoyed it. Strengths. I think the acting was nice. The writing surprisingly very good in my opinion. A lot of witty humor and all that. But I think the dynamic amongst the family really drives this bad boy home.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think if you're a wrestling fan, you will love this film. I liked it way more than I thought I would. I mean, I expected to enjoy it, but I really dug it by the end of it. Yeah, I mean, as you say, the core of this film is the family, and what's good about this film, I believe, it could have sidestepped a lot of the issues or simplified them, and obviously the core issue is here. The brother doesn't make it into the WWE, the sister does, right? So there's this animosity between the brother and the sister, and that plays out throughout the course of the movie. So I thought that was the main sort of arc that we had. She was also growing as an individual, but so was the brother. So the fact that they were able to pull off two arcs, quite cleanly, not a lot of films can say that, okay? So top it into the fact that they're tapping into material here that isn't, let's just say, the most respected in Hollywood or most culture, right? To be able to do that in a clean and professional manner, it's to be applauded. It's to be applauded, and for that, I give it huge props. And the other thing, I'm a huge fan of Nick Frost. He is, in everything I've seen him in, he's made me laugh. Absolutely.
He's lit. I like him.
He kills it in this movie as the dad. He absolutely kills it. He plays, a very... It's funny because at the end of the film, they show you some clips of the actual family. Hey, he looks like a carbon copy of the dad, which is great. And I think he captured that sort of working class English bravado to the full extent. And so did Lena, I think, as the mom as well. I think she also matched up with him well. And I think the writing there's some great humor in this film.
Oh, absolutely.
There's some really good humor, and it's quick and it's fast, and I think Stephen Merchant he's British, isn't he? Yeah. So it's delivered. So for me, like, the big difference between British and American humor is British humor is delivered and they move on to the joke really quickly. They move on right
more
after.
Aggressive too.
Yeah, and it's gone. Like, if you missed it, you missed it. That's it. American humor, they'll say a joke. They'll either give it a pause just so we're like, oh shit, that was awkward, or they'll build on the awkward, right? So this one is very quick paced, and I really enjoy that sort of stuff.
Gave it a flow.
Yeah, it was great flow, and I think it was evenly spread amongst the family, and you saw that they had a certain similarity amongst them. That you buy that they're a family because of the way they treat certain situations and the way they talk about themselves and all that. So, from that aspect, it was really cool. I think the other great thing is that they tapped into the resources of this being a WWE film, right? So you have these name drops and you have these wrestlers walk around, and it adds an authenticity to the film. If you haven't seen wrestling, it probably doesn't matter to you, but to me and to you, to see some wrestlers, you're like, oh shit, yeah, we're watching a thing like that. And there's other scenes in this movie where they go to live to SmackDown setup, I think, at one point, and it's great to see the arena.
I don't think that was the right setup though. I think that's like the current SmackDown setup. Well, that's a little nitpicky flaw.
Whatever. I mean, that's like that. Yeah.
That's not going to take away from the movie, but
yeah.
This is me.
And they have that, and they have WrestleMania, of course, where she's there, and I think this wasn't filmed like that. This is scenes intercut with WrestleMania, but it was okay, well done. So the fact that they had those resources, they tapped into them quite impressively. I thought was good. Yeah, and so. That brings us to, I guess, the negatives, if we had any.
Did you have one?
I did have a couple.
You go first.
Yeah, not large portions, but I'll say about, let's say 20% of this movie comes off as a commercial for the WWE. And so at times it feels like you're not watching her story, you're watching the WWE trying to sell the product of we're clean and we're family oriented now, which is fine, I guess.
They were? I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely felt like that. I mean, this is you don't have to do much digging to understand that this company has, let's just say, stepped over the lines of social norms beyond belief, really, and they've gotten away with quite literally murder on TV, right? So
they killed Vince McMahon.
They've overstepped boundaries thousands of times. So to get a film like this where they're, I get that they're promoting the right things now, and I get that, right? And that's cool and everything, but this is a company essentially that hasn't ever really apologized for the shit they've done. They've sort of just like, never mind, we'll just move
brush
along.
it aside and move on.
Yeah. So to someone like me who's seen both sides of it, I'm happy that they moved on. That really the focus of this movie is a young girl, right? And that's really interesting as well. And it's cool that the first serious movie that came out of this was about a young girl. At the same time, though, you know, they did really shitty shit. So to package this movie as we treat everyone equally and girls get the same favor as dudes in the business, it's not. It doesn't fly with me. Right?
Okay, now I see what you're saying.
It doesn't fly with me, right? And I'm pretty sure this isn't an exact replica of what training looks like and what people have to go through and etc. And I mean the point is like the whole thing with the divas about how her like competitors were hired because of their looks. That is literally why a lot of divas was hired.
Yeah,
let's say 15 years ago.
Well, to an extent, they still do, but I do think they're developing them better now.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I think so. And so, like that, I like that little pivot in the film because it's correct for what they're doing now. However, it's not like this has been going on forever. This is a very, very recent thing in this company, right? They've been hiring female wrestlers for other reasons other than wrestling for a good chunk of time, right? And so to sort of say, we're doing this now, to me, it's like, okay. It's almost sanitizing what they used to do, right?
Okay, go on.
Yeah. And the last thing, I guess, before something else comes up, I was not a big fan of the final scene.
Okay, we'll get to that because I have something to say about that.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave that to you. I'll just sort of leave it with, I was not a big fan of it. I thought recreating it felt awkward and uncomfortable at times. And almost like all I wanted was for them to cut from the film and just play the actual thing. Just play the actual thing. I think it would have captured the madness of what it was. I ended up going home and watching her
Doesn't she get a louder pop in real life?
She gets a huge pop in real life.
I'm telling you.
But this is what I mean. It's kind of awkward for the fans as well because they're supposed to act like they're in a film, right? And that's weird. Like, no matter how you cut it, fans aren't there to be in a movie.
Right.
And so I think you lose some of that edge at the end. And speaking of the end, I think it's one of those, like, very happy-go-lucky endings, if you will, where it's almost, it feels like, I'm happy that she faces challenges in this movie, right? She gets knocked down several times, which I think is really good to see why she rebounds, right? However, some of her rebounding is a little bit questionable about where she has the motives for that sort of stuff, but that's cool. There's really no clear explanation as to why she wants to be a wrestler, for example. For most of the film, we're fed this idea that she was pushed into it by her family.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And then there's supposed to be a moment where she asks herself, why is she a wrestler? And it's not really answered.
She's like, it's an escape to bliss or something.
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's odd because we don't get that sense throughout the movie. At least I don't. So for her to use that reasoning was a bit like, okay, I guess we're just going to move along with that. And but by the end, it does feel a bit of the classic, fail a couple times and you finally make it, you win the title, it's great.
Yeah, it's a cliche type of
put a ribbon on it sort of thing, right? Which to me was, I guess, acceptable if this was their first film. They probably didn't want to go too far out there with it, and what they had was acceptable in terms of an ending where it's satisfying enough where nobody's going to leave pissed and annoyed. So yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about that real quick.
That flaw you had with like WWE and like the trend. I mean, I guess it could be a personal thing, kind of.
What do you mean?
Like, since we know WWE. Like you just talked about, like, before, your flaw with it.
I mean, it's a criticism because the movie comes off as a commercial rather than an actual.
I guess that'll be it's the more grand.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be, in a sense, almost a biography of this woman.
No,
right?
I feel that.
So it's like when we saw Bohemian Rhapsody. There's certain shit we saw in that movie. We were like, okay, it's clearly sanitized or watering it down or whatever.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So one of my flaws that I'll add on is, I guess it could tie with the ending because I feel like it was very rushed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, why she was chosen
does not make clear.
It wasn't made clear.
Not at all. Not at all.
Because, like, she does get up, but
She's not better than the other ones. Like, there's no point.
Wrestling wise, she is, but that she wasn't fulfilling the other aspects
Right.
of it. So, like, he's just Vince Hutch is just like, yo, come here. He's like, and then The Rock tells, and like, it's like a fan service moment of The Rock.
Oh, it's
by the way, perfect casting to cast Dwayne Johnson as The Rock. What a.
It might go down as a supporting actor nominee come next Oscar season.
But I'm just like, why do we? I don't know the story as to why she. I mean, people just get called up if they feel like you're ready.
Right.
But they don't give you. She's not ahead of the game. They don't make that clear.
Yeah, there's no moment where you feel like she's dominating NXT, for example, and you say, okay, she's clearly ready to move on. And this is a company that's very careful with sort of who they push. And I mean, the fact that she ends up, okay, for people who don't watch wrestling, the fact that you get, I mean, people who went to watch this movie and don't watch wrestling, props to you.
They're lost.
Yeah, big props, by the way, to make that jump. I'm glad. I hope you enjoyed the movie.
Dude,
but
for your first match and to win the title.
So this is the thing, yeah. So not only, she came out, and it's not just win the title, but it's who she beat. She beat her opponent was, 300 days, some shit, reigning champion, which is a big deal in wrestling because it's supposed to be a fictionalized drama where you'd expect titles to move around a lot, and they do. They do move around a lot. So the fact that her first match in sort of the big stage, she ends up winning it, is what's considered a huge push by the industry.
Yeah.
And so we didn't really get you're right. We didn't really understand the gravity of that situation. To us, it makes sense because we've seen it, and for her to win it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think if you haven't watched wrestling and you watch it, you go, all right, what's the point? She won a Divas title. Okay. You don't understand what that means.
Yeah, it didn't feel earned.
No.
So.
And it wasn't, the prize wasn't made clear as to why it was so sort of important. I mean, we had other titles that she looked up to as a kid, but that it didn't really make any sense as to why that would be the final prize for her, right?
Okay, so I guess we can go to the ending now.
Sure.
So when the ending happened, I was trying my best.
So what's the ending for you? Like what?
I like before that she has a convo with her brother and just the fences get amended.
Yeah.
Right? Is it amended or mended?
Mended.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
So
it's another ribbon perfect moment. By the way.
And
before my last match, here we go.
Bro's cool with me now.
Yeah.
But she, by the way, I love Vince Vaughn's character in this. I just think he does really well.
Yeah.
Just a quick shout out.
Yeah, but Vince Vaughn plays good pricks.
Yeah.
That's his thing.
But okay, so for the ending, the last match, right?
Right.
Okay. So I was trying my best to remember what I saw, because I remember I saw it live.
Right.
And I remember she got a way better reaction.
Yeah.
People were cheering for her.
Yeah, she did. I went back. I mean, YouTube videos, she's got way more fanfare.
Because independent wrestlers are making more waves now. Mm-hmm. And that kind of started a few years ago, actually. This is big now. But it was awkward. The crowd wasn't cheering for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then her opponent, AJ Lee, is just even her, because wrestlers, they're not when it's happening, they try to play it off.
Yeah.
You can't look confused yo, dude, is she forgetting her line?
So that never happened.
It never does.
I mean, the real match didn't play out like that. She didn't freeze.
Yeah, she didn't freeze.
Yeah. So I don't understand why that was made a thing. I get sort of this callback to she messed up prior, she's going to mess up again. Oh, but I'm we have the literal video of the actual event. What or why are we changing it?
Because now I guess they're catering to the generic audience. But I'm you kind of lost them for the first 90% of it. So why try to get them for the last 10?
Yeah, I feel like if you had to remain authentic till the end, I think it would have just been better for the overall product.
I don't understand. And then the speech she makes, did she even make that? I know did she say something?
No, she literally pins her and she leaves the ring.
Yeah.
It's one of those quick pins and she leaves the ring and she's hype.
Why are we trying to drive this family narrative forward?
And I didn't feel like that was her. Again, that wasn't the reason why she was a wrestler. Right? Remember Vince Vaughn asks her the first time? Yeah. That's the answer she gives the first time. And he's not accepting of it, and she doesn't accept it either. And then she changes it to, it's my escapism. But she doesn't say that when she wins it, right? So it's, again, this conflicting reason and motive as to why she is who she is, which I think is so important because this is so critical to to go out of your comfort zone so much and to pursue a career that's so off the beaten path, right? I mean, how many people grow up and they're like, I want to be a wrestler, right? To be that person, you have to have solid reasoning, right? I get that the family part is there, but clearly the film makes a point to say that's not why she's a wrestler. But we never get the other reason why.
It's not clear. I don't think they were clear, like her, but I don't know. I don't know what they were aiming for.
It's just that deviation from, like, you know, you could have gone deeper, but they chose to, I guess, go the much simpler route.
They went to the PC way.
I mean, not even PC. I just think it's the easier route. It's just easier. We go, oh wow, yeah, family. Okay, cool, done.
Because I was sold on the family part already. You didn't need that to kind of convince me that she did it for family.
Yeah.
Like the dynamic was good enough alone. Like that was the power element of the movie. But it felt really awkward. The Michael Cole commentary attached to it.
It was bad. I didn't like it. And what it sort of tarnished the movie because that felt like the most plasticky part. Mm-hmm. The most just, you know, orchestrated aspect of the film. When everything else felt so real, so grounded, you bought the family, you bought the reaction. And then you get there and you're like, well, that's clearly fake, which is terrible, right? Because you did so much work to lay the foundation to have this grand finale, and you didn't even need to show it, man. You could have, again, just played the actual, like some sort of cinematic version of it, whatever you could have done, right? You could have made some package.
They're a billion-dollar company. You could have finessed your way around
You could have finessed it and played it out, right? You didn't need to have her continue to be Paige to win the title. Like, Jesus Christ, just let it be. But yeah, I mean, that was... So it left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah, but the whole movie in general, I enjoyed.
I did. I thought you. Let me get her name.
Florence Pugh.
Yeah, Pugh.
Pugh.
Right. Florence Pugh. I thought she was fantastic. Her.
You said it was Pug.
Yeah. Well, I'm.
You're such a scumbag. I said
I'm
it was
a scumbag.
Pugh.
I know. Fall into my trap. Yeah, I think her relationship with her brother in the film was great.
Really good.
The family was solid. Some fantastic humor in this. I'll probably rewatch it if it's on TV.
Yeah.
Definitely a movie you can watch.
Yeah,
I think The Rock is The Rock, so you love...
I mean, that scene was great.
Him trash talking him was great. Like, it's back to old wrestling days. It's always great to see a little bit of that.
Son bangs the locker.
It's always good to see a little bit of that. And just the whole thing with the dad and the phone call, that scene was just great too.
I'm Vin Diesel.
And I'm Vin Diesel, mate. I hope you're not.
Go.
So it was great, bar the end of the film. So scores?
Well, I'm going to go with a 7.
7? Really? Wow, I'm going to go 7.5. I really enjoyed it. Way more than I thought of.
Of course.
Barring the ending. Really a solid film. Given, of course, the minuses I have stated quite plainly in this podcast.
This might be a score that in like a few months would be like, yeah, it was kind of
I don't know. I don't think so. I really have a hard time picking out anything else that I probably had a problem with. I think I'm going to stick with those problems. It's not going to not be funny in a year. It's still going to be funny. I may even like it even more. Who knows? Anyway, that was Fighting With My Family.
Fighting With My Family, mate.
With my family. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're going to go chat shit about Wayne and Roland. Catch us on that. Until next week. Well, no, not even next week. Next episode.
What?
What?
Well, yeah, next week.
Yeah, I guess so. It depends on which order you're watching, if you're listening to the episodes. Or maybe you're not listening at all, and it doesn't matter. So anyway, really nothing matters ever. Anyway, check us out, I guess, next episode or next week, whenever. Next month, whenever you feel.
I don't know why this is a thing right now, but okay.
iTunes, Spotify, Twitch. Jesus, why does that always sneak in? iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
You support us on Patreon, or you're at RT. No, we're not.
There is no Patreon. Keep the money to yourself. We don't deserve your money. Thanks for hanging with us.
Peace. Deuces.
Yeah, steal both. Just steal both.
Cut.
Steal both.